All right, now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind, but we're going to have a show.
Oh, thank you all very, very much. I must tell you, we're basically running down a bunch of video of the hearing that's going on right now with Pam Bondi on Capitol Hill. Oh, Pam Bondi fans, or are you hearing fans? All right. Well, it's a day that we have filled with a lot of that stuff, which is quite relevant to the Justice Department, completely I'd suggest taken over by Trump loyalists to the point that the only justice being done is that which is the recriminatory instincts of the president played out on the American people. So I'll just note one thing that was played out was those 6 senators who were, I think senators and Congress people, wasn't it, Kim, on that video, which included Mark Kelly, during which all of these people were imploring military officers not to obey unlawful orders. Remember, they were going to prosecute Mark Kelly and all 6 of those people. Yep. Well, no grand jury would follow that prosecution. So the...
Why, Mark? Because it wasn't against the law?
0 for 6. Yeah, and that's pretty incredible because, as is often said, you can indict a ham sandwich. You can get a grand jury to indict a ham sandwich is kind of the line that's thrown around, meaning, indictment doesn't necessarily mean guilt because the standard is pretty low. As you know, in a grand jury, you have all of the prosecutorial materials, but you don't have any really of a defense being put on. So typically, it's easier to get that indictment. In any case, that was a swing and a miss for this DOJ that is really just doing the bidding of this president, who is an angry, vengeful guy. And you've got Pam Bondi running that Justice Department, who is testifying before Congress now in the Oversight Committee's role of talking about where the Justice Department is. We'll play you some of that coming up. First, a quick shout out to Wes in Florida.
What?
Yeah.
Big shout out.
A $5 super sticker right out of the chute. The super stickers and super chats are live. It's one way to support the show, and I'll give you more ways as the show goes on. I don't want to delay too long. Do love delaying, but I don't want to delay too long. Today, you'll see John Rothmann, bottom of the hour. He is the scholar, the historian. We'll go over a lot of what's going on now, what I've just mentioned, and more. And also, Elliott Morgan joins us an hour or two. You may have seen him. He's a TYT contributor and host, and I'll also give you a chance to kind of get a take from him on a lot of what's going on in America and across the globe. There was an extraordinary thing that happened. In fact, Tony shared with the boys and girls what was happening over the airspace of El Paso. They shut down the airspace of El Paso, Texas today, and they were shutting it down initially for 10 days.
What?
I know. But apparently that shutdown has been lifted, and there are more details coming into the Mark Thompson Show newsroom. Go ahead, Tony. Here's the latest.
Well, okay.
Space over El Paso, Texas. It comes hours after they said they were stopping all flights for 10 days. An administration official tells ABC News Mexican cartel drones breached U.S. airspace and the Pentagon took action to disable them. ABC News aviation analyst John Nance joins us now for more. So, John, at first, this was a 10-day closure announced in the middle of the night. Then it gets lifted hours later. What do you make of this whiplash we just saw?
Well, first of all, it's unprecedented, and secondly, it's really strange in every possible particular. You see, the airspace over the United States, all aspects of it, is a massive cooperation enterprise, and you don't just turn around and turn that off unless you have a really good reason. And basically, Terry, the FAA's got a lot of explaining to do.
So sources tell ABC News the FAA announced the closure because the Pentagon was not sharing information. How do those agencies typically communicate with each other?
Typically, they are wired together very well through the, if nothing else, the major command post in the Dulles Airport area in Washington. They know what's going on, and they usually give everybody as much warning as possible. Now, there's no question that if we really got a national security situation and it's genuine, then obviously the FAA is the agency to shut everything down.
Well, there's not a lot genuine in this agency anymore. Okay, let's, the Pentagon not sharing information. So they only share it on signal apps when there's about to be a major military exercise going on. That's when they share stuff, inadvertently usually, just out of their own chaotic incompetence. Tell us what really happened, Kim, here. It wasn't a cartel drone at all.
No,
but they shut down the airspace over El Paso for 10 days was the edict because of what they claimed was the airspace being pierced by a Mexican cartel drone. But in reality, Kim will fill you in on what it was. Go ahead, Kim.
The anti-drone technology was launched near the southern border to shoot down what appeared to be a foreign drone, according to CBS News, but the flying material turned out to be a party balloon. That's right, a party balloon. And one balloon was shot down, and the airspace ban, flying ban was lifted, and all is well. But what's interesting there, what John Nance said, is that this is an unprecedented move. But we saw drone use in Ukraine, and this is kind of the new warfare, right, with the drones. So this probably isn't the first time or the last time that we'll see airspace closed because of fears over drones. That's my thinking.
Yeah, with all due respect to your thinking, I think that while drones do represent a threat, the airspace over the U.S. is pretty secure. And I mean, I say this, there was a Chinese, as you know, like blimp-sized balloon that came through, so maybe that's not true. I think it extraordinary that you would shut down U.S. airspace for 10 days. It's typical oversteering of this administration, this regime. It's a bunch of people that don't know what the F they're doing. You've got a guy in Pete Hegseth who's completely incompetent. He has no business running the Pentagon. He has no idea of what the F he's doing. He should sit in the makeup chair and get powdered for a live remote that he does for Fox News Channel. That's the only thing he should be doing. But this idea that you sound the alarms, you close the airspace, it's typical. That's what this administration does. They like big moves like this one to suggest that somehow the U.S. is being threatened, as it turns out, by a party balloon. It's embarrassing, and someone should be embarrassed. But since they're not capable of shame, that will never happen. So,
The Mark Thompson Show.
Sorry, but that's just, I think, have to state a stark truth. The Olympics also, I'll just touch on this before I get on, because once we get into the Bondi hearing, we're going to be hip deep in it, and so it's like a spelunking mission. I'd like to just touch on a couple of things before I get to it. You just heard from Kim, who is here for breaking news of one sort or another, and will keep us posted
Kim,
on many things. Among them, out of the Olympics, this story about this Ukrainian racer who was told, don't put the pictures of those who have lost their lives in the Russian military attack on Ukraine and on the war in Ukraine. Do not wear this helmet of memory, as it was called. Was told, don't wear it. He's a luge participant. And the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, said, hey, dude, we're not messing around on this. Do not wear this helmet of memory for your country's war dead. Well, last night, Vladislav Haragutskis, I promise you that is not how he says his name, revealed that he had continued to use the helmet. It shows athletes killed during the war. He wore it during his practice runs in Italy. That was in defiance of the IOC. Earlier, another luge athlete, Olena Shmaha, also displayed the words, "Remembrance is not a violation," on her glove. She finished 20th in the race. The Ukrainian team appealing against the helmet ban, arguing that it is not in the breach of the Article 50 Olympic Charter, which prohibits political statements while in competition. So after finishing second in his training run, he said, Haraskevich, that he planned to continue to use his banned helmet in competition. I use it in all trainings, he said. I use it today, I will use it tomorrow, and I will use it on race day. I truly believe that we didn't violate any law and rules.
What do you think? Do you think that remembering people who have died is a political statement? Or do you think it's just remembering the athletes who have died and that inspires you in their memory to do well?
I'm pretty liberal about this sort of thing. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I think that, remembering war dead or remembering, I don't know. I get it. I mean, these are really such troubled times. I think you could find such messages on a lot of helmets. And if that happens, then maybe you have to make a decision. I understand they've made a decision already, but I guess I would say I'd give this guy a mulligan, kind of let him go. You've made your statement, IOC. You had to do that, probably. He has to do this. He feels sort of morally compelled to do this. So I think everybody could just chill out. That might be my advice. And if, as I say, it turns into, a political protest on everybody's helmet, then you can step in and go, guys, can't do this anymore. But right now, I might let it pass. If he had a picture of his mother who passed away, would you have a problem with that?
Right.
It's not political. These are his friends. These are his colleagues. These are other athletes, Ukrainian athletes who've lost their lives in the war. So you can jiu-jitsu it that way if you need to. I mean, rationally kind of get your way around it. But it's just one story out of the Olympics. By the way, I'll just mention this. The women, how about the U.S. hockey team?
Yeah.
Yeah, my women. They rocked it.
Girl, you just woo.
I think it was 5-0.
5-0 over hockey, too.
Yeah.
Beating
the
Canada in
hockey
hockey
team.
is that's not an easy feat.
That's exactly right. The other thing that I wanted to mention was the removal of the LGBTQ plus pride flag from the Stonewall National Monument.
This is atrocious. Atrocious.
It just seems, again, like it's gratuitously bad. I get it. But you people who are on the fence, who don't see this administration for what they are, I mean, this is one very prominent way of thinking that goes through this administration at every level. It's anti-LGBTQ plus, and you'll find it everywhere. So this Stonewall National Monument in New York City was marked with this large pride flag, right? It's, when
it was established as a national monument, absolutely.
So when it was established as a national monument, it was shared as such as, is it the park system that maintains it? I mean, because it's a national monument, is that how it works? And
I think, yeah, probably.
Yeah, and of course, the Stonewall Inn was this place where gay people gathered in Greenwich Village in Manhattan, and the cops raided it, and it was brutal. I mean, they broke heads, and it was a horrible, bloody, historical cornerstone, if you will, of the fight for civil rights from the gay community, which had been victimized by that kind of thing. Anyway, to somehow take this down, I don't know what you're trying to say. I mean, I think one of the great, and it is true, the Interior Department handles this National Park monument.
Yeah.
I think one of the great things about America, if I can just, speak to one of the great things about this country, and sadly, I think there's an attack on it, is our history of memorializing civil rights, memorializing the struggle that many people are part of, memorializing the ways in which minorities that have suffered for years in this country are now gaining civil rights, and in so doing, showing future generations that there are ways in which you can gain civil rights. The system, which is so brutally set up against you, can also be changed. And for these reasons, I think the government should speak proudly about this. And that's why I see this as as just awful. I mean, it's just awful. So, again, I get the logic behind it because they're against gay people, straight up. I mean, I think, or against the wokeism that somehow recognizes gay. When I say gay, I get it. Besant is gay. There are gay people in the administration. That doesn't necessarily get you off the hook for what's happening when you do things like this one. I mean, I don't need to go through the list of civil rights monuments and even exhibits in national museums that have been changed as a result of this administration going aggressively against history associated with slavery, history going against, again, the evolution of civil rights in America. So there it is, the Stonewall National Monument. So it's a sad day when our country can't really recognize that, as you say, in a way that shows the pride that we can have for having having recognized the ways in which the LGBTQ plus community has, suffered, and now we're beginning to evolve past it. At least we were. Again, It shouldn't just be gay pride. It should be national pride for the ways in which that community was treated and now is treated in a better way. A quick shout out to Chaplain Fred, who says with a $5 super chat, hello, everyone. So now MAGA wants to deport Bad Bunny. Do they know he is a U.S. citizen? Where will they want to deport him? Ohio or Florida?
Big shout out.
Is that right that are they talking about some kind of, they're going after Bad Bunny? I didn't see that.
Can't possibly deport a U.S.
They can't
citizen.
deport him. It's absurd. It
makes no sense.
The battle against Big Bad Bunny is so silly anyway. He's the most popular artist in the world. Again, claim him with pride. Don't go against him. Why? Because he's Latino? Or because he's a Spanish speaker? Last Angry Manny says, yeah, okay, blame the cartels instead of UFOs.
Big shout out.
Yeah, that's the real crime. Right. They say it's a party balloon, but we know it's UFOs over El Paso.
Why are you yelling?
Yeah. So, all right.
So I don't think that's for real. The Chaplain Fred mentions deporting Bad Bunny. There's some calls online, some online stuff to deport him after the people didn't like the halftime show. The MAGA people didn't like it. And so there are calls for him to be deported, but that's not real.
Okay. All right. Moving on then. All right.
The Mark Thompson Show.
I don't know. We're getting awfully on down the road here. I have to bring on Rothmann within a couple of minutes. Why does this time click by so quickly on this show? Maybe it's the fact that we start so late.
What?
Or maybe it's because you're so fun.
Yeah, I don't think I've been super fun, but I'll take it. I mean, anyway.
What can you tell us about the scene?
We're running late, Larry. We're running late. All right.
What can you tell us about the scene?
I do want to recognize, deport him for dating a Kardashian, says Champagne
There you
Wishes.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I do want to tell you that you all were terrific. Those who recognized yesterday a great value. Our sponsors, and we only have a couple of them. Our sponsors are our partners. They help keep us on the air. YouTube revenue is nothing compared to having to support everything we have to support on this show. And so we need sponsors who we vet and we road test. And as I told you, we road tested a sponsor. We've actually given them 2 months. I'm bringing Courtney in for the last 2 months, and we don't think that they're right. And so we're not going to bring them onto the show, even though it would bring money to the show.
Yeah.
And so we road tested Zellman's, and they really do work.
Yeah.
And so we were excited to bring them into the fold. But here's the part where you stepped up, the audience. Yesterday they came on. We met Anthony. And he did a flash sale. Is it too are you okay with the headphones?
Yeah.
Okay. headphones are okay for you?
Yeah. Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
The Anthony, who was the creator of this product, came on yesterday and gave us sort of the origin story, and then he did a flash sale. He said, we'll give 25% off to everybody who orders before midnight, and they did really well, right?
Yeah, very well.
Yeah.
Huge numbers.
So thank you to the audience who stepped up and supported our partners. And now, because of that success, they are extending a 15% discount regardless of whether you've ordered before. You can order again and still get 15% off. Originally, it had just been for the first order. So Zellmans.com, Mark T is the discount code for 15% off. And quickly, Zellmans is a powerful mint on the outside of this capsule. I pop 3 at a time. I just think that I like that you swish it around, you get the peppermint, you get the what's the other one, peppermint or
parsley?
No, the parsley's on the
spearmint.
inside. Spearmint. Yeah, on the outside. Yeah. It kind of freshens your mouth. And then when you're done with that kind of exterior, you swallow them, and that's where the real action is, because those parsley oils interact with everything in your stomach, and that neutralizes the bad breath components. Mm-hmm. It really does work.
It really does.
We use it before bed so we don't get morning breath.
I use it all the time before bed. Yeah.
So in your gut is the magic, and again, it's alcohol-free, keto-friendly, gluten-free.
And natural ingredients. So, and thank you again. Thank you so much for supporting us and supporting our sponsors.
Yeah, it really
means
does.
the world.
And for those who haven't tried it, Zellmans, Zellmins.com, Zellmans.com. And again, use Mark T at checkout for 15% off.
All orders.
All orders.
All orders.
Yeah.
Moving forward.
Very, very exciting to have you stop through also.
Thank
I know
you.
you're very,
for
very
having
busy.
me. I am a very busy person.
You are. You are. You say it sarcastically, but it really is true. All right. Anything you want to say to Kim or Tony?
Hi, Kim. Hi, Tony.
Okay, that was good. All right. Hi, bye. Thank you.
The Mark Thompson Show.
That is Courtney, everyone. Yeah.
Can I add one more thing about Zellmans?
Yes, please.
Is their website, Zellmans.com. I was looking at, I wanted to know if it was like xylitol or what made their, what their ingredient list was. It's not. It's good. It's sucrose, not sucralose, sucrose. They're doing it right. And I wanted to see exactly, what was in it. All their website is so thorough. Everything you need to know is there. You can look around at their website and find their ingredient list and find all of the questions you have answered at Zellmans.com.
That is the website. Tony's got it up, and it says, like, for regular people, save 10%, but you, because you're an insider from this show, you get 15% off with Mark T at checkout. So you can ignore that 10% when you get, you can. What's that, honey?
I was going to say, finally a reason to tune into you every day.
Thank you very much. Zellmans.com with Mark T at checkout, 15% off. So Kim did the research on the website, too.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Very, very impressive. Who knew?
Kim, how are you?
Yeah. Who knew? Kim went the extra step. I want to bring this guy in. He's a scholar. He is an educator. He's an author, our former colleague from KGO Radio, the great John Rothmann. He joins us on Wednesdays. Hello, Captain. How are you?
Very well, sir. Delighted to be with you.
Captain Rothmann, we are going to get right into the Bondi hearing. Now, maybe you can set the table for us. This is an oversight hearing, a sort of oversight hearing that would exist with any regime, with any administration. But this regime has populated the Justice Department with fierce loyalists. They pursued a policy of recrimination on behalf of Donald Trump, our dictator-in-chief. And I would suggest they have issued a lot of, they've tried to indict in almost I'd suggest an aggressive fashion that reflects disregard for the law itself. So there's a lot to question. When I say that, I'm talking about the 6 legislators who were counseling military leaders not to obey illegal orders, the going after the prosecutors involved with the Trump legal proceedings that, again, have been taking place over the last 4 years, and Letitia James, et cetera. And so there's a lot to question. Then you talk about DHS, and you talk about what's happening with ICE agents. You talk about what's happening with the FBI. These are all things that are falling under the control of Pam Bondi. So Pam Bondi controls an awful lot, isn't that right? And this Oversight Committee exists to question anyone running the DOJ about the way the DOJ is proceeding. This would exist, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, under other administrations.
Well, that's the job of the Oversight Committee. It is to examine what's going on. But I want everyone to understand, when you play the clips, which I know you're going to, of Pam Bondi, she came in a defiant mood. She isn't interested in being conciliatory. And to make it very clear, the Republicans are defending her, but the Democrats are really out to let people know of the abuses in the Justice Department. And I think that's precisely correct. You characterized something earlier that I think is very important: the vindictive nature of this administration. They go after their opponents. There is no compromise. There is no willingness to back down. And what you're seeing with Pam Bondi now is an attempt to solidify her position with the president and defend him to the extreme. And that's exactly what's happened.
So let's start with a bit of the Ted Lieu clip, if you will, Tony. I think the Ted Lieu clip.
That's Congressman Ted Lieu. Everybody should understand. Yeah.
Right. He's from California. Go ahead.
Time belongs to the gentleman from California.
Okay. I'm going to put up another document from a witness who called the FBI's National Threat Operations Center, because I believe you just lied under oath. There is ample evidence in the Epstein file.
Don't you ever accuse me of a crime.
I believe you just lied under oath, and this is on videotape. You said there's no evidence of a crime. I'm showing you, here is a witness statement who called into the FBI's Threat Operations Center. He drove Donald Trump around in a limo. He overheard what Donald Trump said to Jeffrey on his cell phone. He was so angry, he was going to stop a limo and hurt Donald Trump. And he met a girl who said she was raped by Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. She later had her head blown off, and officers at the scene said that could not have been suicide. No one at the Department of Justice interviewed this witness. You need to interview this witness immediately. Epstein should rot in hell, so should the men who patronized his operation. And as we sit here today, there are over 1,000 sex trafficking victims, and you have not held a single man accountable. Shame on you. If you had any decency, you would resign right after this hearing concludes.
The gentleman has expired.
May I respond?
Yeah, I don't know how you respond. No one can.
I did not ask a question, Ms.
Go ahead, you're allowed to.
I did not ask a question.
Crime in California. He does not want to talk about
I did not ask a question.
crime in his state.
You can't just ad-lib stuff. I did not ask a question.
Meeting will be in order. The gentleman has yielded back his time. I think our next witness will be.
So what's interesting to me there is that Lieu actually is not alone. He's a Democrat, but he's joined by Massey in this same hearing. Play a little bit of Massey.
Who is a Republican.
Thank you.
Initiated the legislation in the House. So I think that's just important to point out.
Indeed. No, I think you're absolutely right. He co-authored that bill in the legislation that Rothmann, the disclosure legislation, the legislation mandating disclosure, unredacted disclosure, essentially. Here's a little bit of Massey, and then I'll talk to Rothmann about this on the other side of that.
May I respond very briefly to her statement?
Well, I think we can do that probably on one of our members' time.
Okay, thank you. I don't want that to get away. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Behind me, I have 3 documents from the DOJ production that are emblematic of the massive failure of the DOJ to comply with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. To my right is an email that was sent by the victims' lawyers to the DOJ. It was a list of names not to redact, a list of names not to release. What did the DOJ do with this email? They released this email in the document production. Literally the worst thing you could do to the survivors, you did. And they're getting phone calls. A lot of these people didn't want to be known. And we know you touched the document because you redacted one name and you redacted the lawyer's name, but you left the survivor's name there. The next document I want to show you That was in the title, the victims, survivors' names, all right? The title of this one is Child Sex Trafficking, Co-Conspirators, fully redacted. And by the way, I'm going to unredact them here. Les Wexner is in this. Now, your your deputy attorney general said, oh, well, he appears hundreds of times in the files, but he doesn't appear in this file until I forced you to release it, where he's listed as a co-conspirator, not to tax evasion, but to child sex trafficking, not to prostitution, not to money laundering, child sex trafficking. And then finally, what we have here is the third exhibit that I have is emblematic of the FD 302 release.
It's a whole
These are
redacted
the
page
documents that we need that you're holding on to and over redacting because they have the names of the men who are implicated. How do we know? Because the survivors gave testimony to the FBI, and it's in there. And what happens when you go to the portal at the DOJ to look at what's behind this redaction? Another redaction. So we can't even see them. And then there's some of these files you've pulled down from the website that we will never see because we can't search the redactions. So I have several questions for you. Who's responsible? Are you able to track who in your organization made this massive failure and released the victims' names? Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document? Do you have that kind of accountability?
I believe Wexner's name was listed more than 4,000 times.
Yeah, I already told you that. This is where he's listed as a co-conspirator.
Can I finish my answer? Come on, let me finish my answer. We corrected that within 40 minutes. He was already, you're acting like everybody's trying to cover up Wexner's name.
Reclaiming my time.
I'm going to answer this question.
Reclaiming my time.
Mr.
Chairman.
This is how this works.
Can I have my time back? Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady can give her answer. The time belongs to the gentleman from
Kentucky. All right, I'm reclaiming my time.
Can I give my answer?
So I'm going to put the language of the bill up on the screen.
Chairman, may I give my answer on that? It's a political joke, and I need to give my answer on that.
We'll let the Attorney General respond, and then the gentleman can move to his next question.
It's my time.
Within 40 minutes, you asked me a question. Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out
where
of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician. You need to get on these matters.
Mr. Chairman, please restore his time and remind the witness of the rules here.
There is no credible information.
All right, so this is a bit of the hearing, and I like the Massey moment because Massey really does encapsulate essentially what the release of the Epstein files both had and didn't have. Specifically, it had a bunch of names of victims who didn't want to have those names public, and it didn't have the names of so many of the others. I mean, I'd suggest sort of international list of elite players who interacted with Epstein in ways that would suggest they were part of, in some way, connected to this international child trafficking ring.
Yeah, Mark, the whole point here is, if you listen carefully, is that Bondi is establishing herself as the worst attorney general in the history of this country. She serves one person, and that is Donald Trump. As you have pointed out, there have been mass resignations in the Department of Justice over this issue. And I would suggest to you that this is hopefully very revealing. But clearly, the most important thing said today is that the Justice Department and the ICE officials who testified the other day will ultimately be held accountable. One more quick point. Have you been listening to the ICE commercials on commercial radio and television saying how wonderful ICE is? I wonder who's paying for that. I mean, it is really...
Well, you can stop wondering. You are.
Oh, I am?
Yes, so, taxpayers are paying for all of that. In fact, there's a massive media campaign, as you're aware. It's a big part of this administration, not only just at ICE, at every level of government, the media and the messaging is well funded by the American taxpayer now.
Darn right.
So you mentioned, just because I hear this from you occasionally, and so let me just skip ahead in the movie. You say that they'll be held to account. How would that happen?
The Democrats win the election in November. They take control of the House in January, and these guys are going to be in deep trouble. And by the way, look at the polls. By the way, did you hear the most shocking news of all? Do you know that the Gallup poll is not doing a rating starting now of the popularity of the president? That was at the direct behest of the White House. This kind of pressure tactic is so appalling to me, and again points out what you and I have talked about extensively, and that is the attempt to muzzle or liquidate a free press. And that to me is the worst thing of all. Somebody asked me, how do I prepare my own commentary? I read all of the news accounts. How did I know, for instance, about Barack Obama and Michelle Obama, which I know you talked about, and they're being viewed as primates? Because the media was able to cover it. And when one points out that at first the White House defended that abomination, people say, well, you know, that's the way it goes. No, it isn't. It is completely incompatible with the American system. So my hope is that come November, there will be a massive repudiation of the Trump administration. And may I just point out again, Gallup not polling on the popularity of the president is the first time in its history it's done that. And the reason they're doing it is because of pressure from the White House.
Well, there are plenty of other polls that show that the popularity of this president is at a low that rivals his lowest numbers during his first 4 years. So the information out there is, I think it is available.
Yeah, but the real story here is not the poll, it's the pressure. It's the pressure that says, stop doing that polling. And we are going to see more and more of that. But that's the attack on the media. I mean, this is something which permeates the Trump administration.
Well, and you're right to mention it in this context, I think, because a lot of the leverage that's imposed is through the Justice Department. I think in the case of Pew, just because you're talking about the polling, they get government money as well to do polls. I mean, there's an aspect of this which is associated with access when it comes to media, the shakedown from the Department of Justice on media. I'm talking about the ABC settlement, the CBS settlement, et cetera, and the fact that, Paramount needed the green light for the merger. All of these things are the ways in which government, this regime, can leverage against media. But in the case of Pew, I'd suggest it may be government contracting.
I'd like to make one other observation. On Saturday, I did 1 hour on a radio station here in Northern California, which is a conservative station. And I had the audacity to suggest that at the very minimum, the White House should apologize for the postings about the Obamas. There were 8 calls in the hour. Every single one of them defended the Trump administration, attacked the Obamas. It was, to me, eye-opening, but it does go to show that although you hear one point of view, perhaps from me or from Mark, what you get when you listen to the rest of America is a very different perspective.
Give me a little bit of Zoe Lofgren, if you would, Tony. Can you pull that up? Here's a little
By the
more
way, she's remarkable, and she's been around a long time.
From the hearings on Capitol Hill with Pam Bondi. Here is a little Zoe Lofgren. And again, Pam Bondi, loaded for bear. She's got the Ring notebook binder, and it's all loaded with various put-downs for each and every questioner. And here is Bondi with Zoe Lofgren.
The gentlelady from California.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would note that Mr. Nadler's question has not yet been answered, but I want to start by asking that out of respect for the American public and the Epstein survivors, some of whom, of course, are here today, that we can have a transparent conversation and get the public the answers they deserve. I want to briefly direct your attention to 2 documents I'm hoping we will put up on the screen. In the first, an individual emails Jeffrey Epstein asking whether a woman identified as M was pro or civilian and Epstein responds that she was a civilian, Russian, and fun. In the second email, Epstein writes to Steve Tisch about a Ukrainian girl, noting that she was, quote, a little freaked out by the age difference and stating that he would try to convince her not to return to Ukraine. He then instructs Mr. Tisch to call him, adding, I don't like records of these conversations. So I'd like to ask a straightforward question that really is either a yes or no answer. Do these emails constitute credible evidence, not proof, but credible evidence warning further investigation into whether Steve Tisch was involved in Epstein's criminal conduct? Do you think yes or no?
I'm not going to play a yes-no game with you, but I will answer the question to the best of my ability. As I said, we will look and investigate any case involving any victim. I'm not familiar, there were 3 million pages, of course, with that email, but of course, we will look into anything. The documents have been released, 3 million, the redacted versions, we left them open for all of you to come view. I believe you view them, if not, will you have some copies?
I'd like to.
But could I finish, please? I'm not being rude, please.
I only have 5 minutes.
No, yeah, and I only have 30 seconds based on your filibuster.
You didn't give a yes or no answer, so let me just go further. Director Patel testified in this committee room that there was no credible information indicating that Epstein trafficked victims to anyone else. In glancing at the documents, that proves that's not the case. In July, your department issued a memo stating that it had conducted an exhaustive review of the Epstein files and concluded that no additional individuals would be charged. So I did go over to the Department of Justice yesterday. I would note that 400 and all our 35 members are in the House, and there's 4 computers. So it would take many months to actually have the time. I only had a few hours. I think the transparency argument is really kind of a sham because it's not really possible.
Whoa. Did you have to wait to get a computer?
It is not possible to really go in. I did, however, see a U.S. attorney information for the Southern District of New York indicating that there were additional survivors and probable co-conspirators. Other members of Congress have uncovered likely co-conspirators whose names were blocked out. Now, the Epstein File Transparency Act, which all but one member of this House voted for and the president signed, requires the department to release everything except that it needs to be redacted to protect the victims or an ongoing prosecution, which apparently there is none from the testimony we have received. I am concerned that this act has not been fully complied with. When Director Patel came to the committee, he admitted that up to 1,000 FBI agents had gone through the files and redacted President Trump's name from them. And it's pretty clear that what has been transmitted from the FBI continues to redact President Trump's name, even though he is mentioned thousands of times in these files. So I think the credibility of the department in terms of complying with the act has been damaged. And I think the department's credibility has been damaged in other ways.
Okay, so that gives you a sense of it. Again, Rothmann, this is what's going on today, and this is what has cut through politically. So even if you just concern yourself with the politics, and I'd suggest that there's way more here than just the politics, but you can see how the Epstein story and the Epstein cover-up really has cut through, even through the MAGA loyals.
I agree with you 100%. Do you understand the corruption in this Justice Department, the corruption in this investigation, the exposure and the protection being given to people? And there is no doubt that if, as you know, Hillary and Bill Clinton have been called to testify and have agreed to testify, I'm waiting for the call for Donald Trump to testify, because there's no doubt that he also was a participant in activities that clearly are not right. And I have to go even further and tell you that's why he has obstructed the release of these documents. We owe to Massey as a Republican and to Ro Khanna as a Democrat who got this legislation through with only one member of Congress voting against it, a remarkable thank you, because that's the way Congress should operate. And unfortunately, in this administration, there is no accountability for the Justice Department, which makes it even more difficult.
It has, as you say, it's captured momentum on both sides of the aisle, and that's why this Epstein story continues to be the focus. But it's not the only thing going on. I mean, the Fulton County seizure of all of these documents and actual voter rolls.
Absolutely appalling.
And behind it, I mean, as we now learn, that seizure of ballots from the 2020 election was ordered by Kurt Olson, who actually helped Trump challenge his loss in 2020. He's an election denier. And the affidavit filed by the FBI was just disclosed yesterday. And
there's no shame here, Mark.
It's an absolutely insane document, since it claims fraud that was not in evidence. And as I say, this is being led by election deniers. And now you fold into that a conspiracy theorist and someone who's made one of the biggest 180-degree turns that we've seen in the administration, and that is from, what's her name? Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard, to me, is unlike any other person in this administration, she's like everybody else in this administration, that she's made this amazing about face.
Yeah, no, you and I are in complete agreement. The problem that our listeners have to be aware of is that we can point these things out. They can even be self-evident. But in this administration, truth does not matter. Accountability does not matter. We are still waiting for the Supreme Court to rule on the tariff question. They should have done it already. But that's going to be a real blow to the administration if, as they should under the law, lose. And let me point out, the Republicans are becoming more and more restive as it appears that Republicans will lose control of the House of Representatives, and maybe, unbelievably, maybe even the Senate. And one of the things that Donald Trump is right about and scared of is if there were a real investigation into the violations by this administration, including the emoluments clause of the Constitution, because clearly this president has profited from his presidency beyond the scope of any other administration in history. So, look, if this were a Democrat, and I want to point this out, I want people to understand me very clearly. If a Democratic administration were doing this, I would be just as indignant, just as confrontational as I am with those who defend Donald Trump.
You mentioned the tariffs. There's a move, as you know, to shield Donald Trump, essentially, and his ability to impose these tariffs from any kind of restraint on the part of Congress. That is being led by Mike Johnson, who's, way into the Trump camp.
Speaker of the House, who is fully culpable.
Right. I wonder if you could speak to sort of the legislative viability of that, given the fact that Johnson is such a Trump loyalist. But there is erosion, John, in the support for these Trump tariffs, especially the way they're being wielded so, impulsively.
I think it will fail. I think the Supreme Court is going to rule against Donald Trump. And I think you are seeing enough defections among House Republicans that what Speaker Johnson is proposing is not possible. And I also want to indicate about Johnson. I've studied speakers of the House. I can give you chapter and verse on the speakers and their histories and all the books I've read about them. Never have we had such a disgrace as Speaker Johnson in this position. And my hope is that when the judgment of history is rendered, he will be ranked as one of the worst speakers in the history of the House.
The last thing I just want to mention to you is something that I think is so reflective of the hyper-partisan nature of politics now. There's this annual governors gathering. Maybe you can tell us more about it.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so it's usually
the governors gathering. I talked about it this morning in my podcast. Here you have the governors normally having dinner at the White House.
These are governors from all the states.
Bipartisan. The National Governors Conference, it's bipartisan. The Democrats and the Republicans, the governors agreed. They're not going to the White House. The way this White House has conducted its affairs has alienated Democrats and Republicans who hold governorships. But we should not be surprised, Mark. The problem is, this is like watching a juggler who keeps the balls in the air. And even if he drops a ball, he continues on this act. And that is what the Trump administration is doing. It is beyond, we're coming up on President's Day. I will not be with you on President's Day. I'll be on my podcast that Wednesday. But I want you to put it in the context of the American presidency itself. This is a shameful administration. And all you have to do is listen to Pam Bondi and the way she conducts herself before the House Oversight Committee to understand the reality of what I'm saying.
So on this Governors Association meeting, though,
Yeah.
John, I just want to take you to focus on that for a second, because it was quite specific, the reason they're not doing it. It's not that it was canceled. They canceled it after what? After Trump said, I only want to meet with governors from red states.
He said Republican governors.
Well,
He was
Republican
very
governors.
clear.
Okay. Republican governors only. Exactly. And actually, that's an important distinction, because sometimes you end up with the governors, in a red state who's Democrat. But the important thing here is that the hyper-partisan nature of this administration and the us versus them aspects that really define this regime, that was played out in such a way that the National Governors Association said, that's not the way we do it. Our mission is to represent all 55 governors. And they say the association is no longer serving as the facilitator for that event. It is no longer included in our official program. The governors group scheduled to meet from the 19th to the 21st is one of the remaining venues where political leaders from both parties gather to discuss the top issues facing their communities.
Yep,
The White House press secretary, when questioned about this, Caroline Leavitt, said yesterday, well, President Trump has the discretion to invite anyone he wants to the White House. It's the people's house, she said. It's also the president's house, so he can invite whomever he wants to dinners and events here at the White House. So, again, it's canceled because of the White House disposition on this.
Yeah, and we need to be clear. The governors made clear they were not going to attend. They were very angry at what the president was doing. And all I can tell you is this is constant. Somebody asked me, what will in the end bring Donald Trump down? And my answer is his own hubris.
Well, his own hubris, maybe. I mean, he's able to reimagine Washington. He is building a now $400 million ballroom / digital national security center.
And don't forget the Arc de Trump.
I was going to get to that. And these are all really forms of grift. These are all ways in which money can pour into the Trumps, but there has been no grift like the crypto grift, which has been identified at $1.5 billion. And I've said this on the show from the very beginning. That's probably 25% of what's come in. And now, you see a lot of multiple billion-dollar donations, and that's really what they are. They're purchases of the meme coin, which is just a donation. They're on that Liberty platform, which is owned by the Trumps. So it's clearly terrible. It's clearly billions and billions of dollars. This is a completely corrupt administration that has found many ways to money itself.
It is an impeachable offense on every level. And I'd like to remind people, one of the greatest presidential scandals was during Dwight Eisenhower's administration. The chief of staff was Governor Sherman Adams, former governor of New Hampshire. I knew Sherman Adams, and I'm going to tell you something. He was one of the most honest guys, but he accepted a vicuna coat, an $18,000 vicuna coat, and for that, he was forced to leave the White House. The days when there was real accountability are clearly gone. And may I say, that extends to the president's family. The fact that the Trump family has made the kind of money that it has is absolutely appalling, shocking, and in complete disregard for American principles and values.
The parlor trick being played here is that somehow, because all of this is being done openly, that somehow it's not illegal. It's right. The funniest thing I've ever, it's like this is the most transparent administration. Well, first of all, they're not. There's a bunch of stuff that's not happening in public. But the stuff that is happening, this grift, you can pull up a Qatari jet to the Pentagon, and, that is an absolute open bit of grift. And then American taxpayers pay $1 billion to upgrade that jet. And now you're going to take it with you on the way out like it's a party favor? Ridiculous. I don't want to end with without asking you about ICE. The ICE officials, Todd Lyons, who's the acting director of ICE. He was questioned yesterday by
some of that?
The Oversight Committee.
Did you play some?
Yeah, I did. Can you speak to it, please?
Yeah. Look, ICE is not the issue. It is the way ICE is being corrupted at Trump's direction. And I'm going to tell you, we need border enforcement. It's legitimate. But what ICE is doing, and now the ad campaign being run in the media, which we are paying for to defend ICE, it's indefensible.
The officials declined to answer questions from Democrats about the fatal shootings of Renee Gooden and Alex Preddy by immigration enforcement agents in Minneapolis, citing an ongoing investigation about the events surrounding the killings. Quote, the slaying of Ms. Gooden and Ms. Preddy by DHS are the most tragic examples of what is wrong with Trump's DHS. And that was from Benny Thompson, who's the ranking member there. And then, again, this is
let's point that out. And because he's a Democrat, the Republicans think they can disregard him. That's
Lyons, again, who runs it, defended the administration's immigration policies and tactics, saying that, quote, in the wake of the unprecedented border crisis of the previous administration, ICE has stepped into the breach to enforce the law. We send a message to anyone who thinks they can intimidate us, you will fail. I mean, that's a despicable thing to say when you are executing people in the streets. It is incredible. Lyons said that they've made 379,000 arrests during the first year of the Trump administration and removed over 475,000 people from the U.S. And then he said, we're only getting started.
That's right. And I want you to understand, when Abe Ribicoff in 1968 at the Democratic Convention talked about Gestapo tactics in the streets of Chicago, if Abe were alive today and he could witness what was happening, why, he would be so shocked, because this is completely un-American, antithetical to everything you and I believe. And may I say one last thing about carrying papers with you? This administration doesn't care if you have a passport. This administration doesn't care if you are part of America. And that, to me, is the most disturbing thing of all. Can you imagine, Mark, people in this country who, in order to function, have to carry their passport or papers in order to prove who they are? That goes along with the Republican plan now to restrict voting again. They're planning this massive bill. And of course, that is part of the American tragedy. We need to have a congressional election in which the Republicans go down to a crushing defeat. And my hope is that that defeat will eliminate what I really believe is a cancer in the Republican Party, and that is the cancer of the Trump policies. And then the challenge will be, and we'll be talking about it a lot on the Mark Thompson program, the rebuilding of the Republican Party. So we have a lot of years and a lot of work to do. And may I say, ladies and gentlemen, if you want the Mark Thompson program to continue, make sure that you contribute. And Mark will tell you exactly how to do that. But Mark, I want to thank you for including me, and thank you for, more than anything else, trying to be a teller of the truth.
Thank you for that endorsement, Brother Rothman. Appreciate that. Of course, Patreon and PayPal are the best ways to support this independent media.
And you can bribe me with those pastries.
We will send you some Sweet 106 stuff too. John Rothman, you can find him on his podcast, which is Around the Political World with John Rothman. It's a daily offering. Take it in and enjoy it. Drink in Rothman whenever you can. Thanks, John Rothman.
Thank you.
Appreciate you, my friend. Yeah.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country.
Where are my weed smokers at? Stay at home and get baked.
I know. Really something. I love Asley because Asley Petrus has one of the coolest names of anybody who contributes to this show. She hits us with a $20 super sticker. Big shout out to her and everybody who has joined the show. Super stickers and super chats are live. Really do appreciate it. A couple of people have written me and asking about donations that you sent, and I'll get back to that. I'm sorry, I've been a little overwhelmed and underslept, and I'm really trying to dance as fast as I can, so I really apologize if I've been slow in response.
I've received a lot of positive letters.
Yeah, I will respond, though. Kid Rock saying that Jay-Z is an NFL DEI hire is an effing joke, says Luis. Jay's accomplishments as an artist and businessman dwarf anything that Kid Loser will ever do. Hashtag Kid Clown, says Luis. Luis is allowed to say whatever he wants, Tony. How dare you? Yeah, what's your problem, Tony? You want to get into the octagon with our viewers, listeners?
Oh,
Richard Delamater, a $2 super chat. I've got nothing to say, but it's okay. Morning. Yeah, right on, Richard Delamater. Thank you for being a big part of the show.
Big shout out.
Yeah.
Don't we have our lady? Morning.
Oh yeah, that's the right.
Morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And
there's always been in this country 30 to 35% idiots.
It's true. Got to live with them. What the sizzle says was watching the hearing with Bondi. There's something definitely wrong with that lady. Well, she's I would say in the tank. I mean, she's there to do a job, right?
Yeah.
She's there, and the job is to protect the president and his interests. I'll play you a little bit more of that hearing in a few minutes with our guest who's coming up, Elliott. But I also wanted to get to a couple more comments just because I don't want to let them linger for too long.
Comments.
There's, I screamed at my screen all morning, says Zero. Bondi just lied and lied and lied and spit in the faces of the victims. It was weird. The victims, some of them were there in the room. I think about the courage required for that. And Daniel says, what the F is she looking for in her binder? She has this binder. Well, she's got put downs for each and every questioner. So she has, she has to turn to the put down page.
I wonder what that meeting was like at the Attorney General's office. Okay, what can we say about Zoe Lofgren? Like, what damaging, nasty comment can I make about her? What can I say about Mark Thompson? I mean, imagine the round table in that meeting where they just hurl insults toward people.
Well, the truth is that they don't just go after the person. I mean, in answer to your question, they go after the district. So they would say, well, in your district, murders are actually down, or murders are actually up, or crime is actually down, or crime is actually up, or you know what we busted in your district. They go that way. It's not always like, that's a question from you that I wouldn't expect, Congressman, given the fact that you benefited from pharmaceutical, whatever. That's not.
Well, she called
always
people failed politicians and failed Republicans, but I don't think it played really well when she was questioned about illegalities, about things the Attorney General's office should be looking into in the Epstein files, and she turns around to a California congressperson and says, well, what about crime in your state? I think really dumb.
I think there is an "I know you are, but what am I" quality to this, which is is wearing thin. Let me be fair to this entire process. There are theatrics in this process. Essentially, is this performance aspect to this. Sometimes that cuts through. Everybody's looking for their soundbite. I feel as though, having watched a lot of it today, that she doesn't have the cut through sound bites. We played you a little bit of the fire, the back and forth, but I don't know what really cuts through. Again, we're so dug in this country at this point, but clearly her Justice Department is truly a perverse play now, a place where the big play is partisan, always.
They're inept. And I think when you have police investigations starting in the UK, and it looks like there's some type of accountability that may be beginning with the Epstein files and mentions from people in the United Kingdom, and nothing is happening here, to turn around and say, well, there's crime in California, makes her look especially bad.
Agolf says DOJ doesn't give a damn about the legislative branch or the judicial branch. There were 96 violations of federal court orders in Minnesota last month alone. Exactly. I mean, the court order violations are insane. I mean, the history of the last month is replete with examples of it. And you even see the way in which there was a congressional edict piece of legislation passed, bipartisan. Again, it was mentioned, signed by Trump on the Epstein stuff, saying release it with these guidelines to protect victims. But apart from that, no redactions. And of course, they do it their own way. I'm getting way behind here. I'll get to Elliott Morgan in a second. I really want you to meet Elliott Morgan. But I first wanted to get to our newest partner, and so excited.
Mark Thompson Show.
I'm excited for Sweet 106 Bakery. Valentine's Day, the sweetest holiday, is this week. Still time for you to order a gift card from the sweetest place on earth, Sweet 106 Bakery. You spell sweet S-U-I-T-E. It's really where they started. That's why it's called Sweet 106. They birthed this whole thing, this whole place, this wonderful business in a place called Sweet 106. It was the place that they started. Anyway, so sweet106bakery.com is where you go. You can use the discount code MarkT for 15% off at checkout.
What?
I know. And what you must know is that we road tested them. We road tested them for freshness. We road tested them for deliciousness. We sent them out to everybody on the show, to Tony, to Kim, to Albert, and the reviews are insane. Now, remember, they won Cupcake Wars twice.
What?
And were voted the best cupcake in America. And that's true.
So you must jump on it. And I don't mean to harp on it, but it's just my favorite. That 3.5 cupcake, that thing that you're looking at from Sweet 106, that is actually a layered cupcake. And it's 3.5 cupcakes. So the layers are frosting. It's so delicious. You want to climb inside it and eat your way out. Sweet 106 Bakery. Again, S-U-I-T-E 106 Bakery. That's Tony's favorite, what he's putting up now, the Strawberry Heaven. Find the one that you love. Sweet106bakery.com. Use the discount code MarkT for 15% off. Sweet106bakery.com. And don't forget the gift cards. Again, put it in a card, the gift card for Sweet 106 Bakery, and you'll be a Valentine hero.
And just know that they make everything in the order in which it's received, and it's made fresh. So it could take 4 to 7 days for them to make your order. And then once they ship it out, they notify you and you get it within 48 hours.
Thank you for that. You're right. These are small batch orders. It's not some mass production. So they make it to order. So my Sweet 106, look at that. My Sweet106bakery.com order arrives today.
Yay!
And I will report back to you how I like it. Says Deirdre Lozica. I love that.
You're going to love it. It's so
all right.
good. What's your
you
favorite
will order,
flavor?
Use that. There she is. The wonderful,
Christy.
wonderful female entrepreneur. Twice the winner of Cupcake Wars. Again, you'll get 15% off with Mark T at checkout. Sweet106bakery.com.
The Mark Thompson Show.
It was great. I loved it.
How would you handle this? We could try ignoring it, sir.
Morning.
You cannot say you love your country. Where are my weed smokers at? Stay at home and get baked.
All right, I made him wait too long. I'm so sorry. Elliott Morgan is the real thing. He is a stand-up comic. He's a writer. He's a host. He's a founding member of the Valleyfolk. Also a founding member of SourceFed, which is a Google-funded comedy YouTube channel. He's been part of, I'm just reading from his bio. He's more impressive. I was already impressed with Elliott Morgan. Now I'm even more impressed with Elliott Morgan. He's had all these different things that he's founded, and they're bought up by big companies. So I'm just inviting him on the show, hoping that, he'll help lift my brand. It's a totally selfish booking. How about it for Elliott Morgan?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. That was an incredible intro.
Well, it left out TYT where, we kind of crossed paths, and I'm really excited that you're taking on a bigger role over there also. So,
thank you.
I thought it would be interesting to get your takes on a few things that are going on, and we might even today look a little bit at the Bondi hearing and some of the things that were said before Bondi just sort of barking back at those who are questioning her. I don't know if you saw the Nadler and Raskin. Can we tee those up for Elliott? Thank you, Tony. Here is Nadler, and again, this is his ramp up to Bondi, and this just happened a couple of hours ago.
I have just one question for you. How many of Epstein's co-conspirators have you indicted? How many perpetrators are you even investigating?
Crickets.
Yeah, hang on a second. It'll continue. Sorry about that.
First, you showed it. I find it.
How many have you indicted?
Excuse me. I'm going to answer the question.
Answer my question.
No, I'm going to answer the question the way I want to answer the question.
No,
Your
you're going to answer
theatrics
the
are
question
ridiculous.
the way I asked it.
Chairman Jordan, I'm not going to get in the gutter with these people, but I'm going to answer the question.
How many have you indicted?
Again, the time belongs to
Reclaiming my time.
the time belongs.
I think it's very interesting.
Reclaiming my time.
I think it's very interesting.
And you can
When
reclaim
he
your
talks
time,
about they
reclaiming my time,
indicted,
Mr.
the
Chairman.
president said they indicted him twice.
Mr. Chairman, please
They
stop the
sure
clock
did.
and stop the
he
clock and
indicted-
restore his time.
Okay, here we go with these
Committee will get in order.
theatrics.
The time belongs to the gentleman from New York. We will give you a few more seconds. We will do that. But when you ask a question, the witness gets to answer. You may not like the answer, but she gets to
The
answer.
question was, how many of Epstein's...
They don't like the answer, Chairman,
my time.
because it's honest.
Reclaiming
So he asked a
Reclaiming my
4-minute question.
Restore 45
and
seconds
I
to
am
Mr. Nadler,
going
please,
to
Mr. Chairman.
answer.
You can let her filibuster all day long, but not on our watch.
Reclaiming-
Not on our time. No way. And I told you about that, Attorney General, before you started.
You don't tell me.
Yeah, I
anything,
did tell you because we
washed
saw
up
what you did in the Senate.
loser lawyer, not even a lawyer.
Committee will be in order.
Time, and I should get back at least 45 seconds.
We will give you a few more seconds. I
Not a
said that
few more,
already.
45 seconds.
Okay, I'm timing right now, Mr. Nadler. Go.
All
Reclaiming my time. The answer to my question, how many of Epstein's co-conspirators has she indicted, is 0. You have been the Attorney General for a whole year, and your DOJ fired the lead prosecutor of this case, sat on evidence this entire time, and claimed falsely last July that there were no more leads. It took an act of Congress for you to finally release part of the Epstein files, and when you did, you included personal information about the victims while protecting the names of abusers.
Time of the gentleman
None
has
of the perpetrators have
expired.
been brought to justice, but enormous resources
Time
have been
of the
dedicated to
gentleman has
pursuing Trump's
expired,
enemies.
and
It's
obviously
clear
there
that
was-
under your leadership, the Department of Justice
There
no
was
longer
no
works for
question
American
in there.
people. It works
Order
for
respond
Donald
to.
Trump. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back.
So, Elliott, I know that this is a rhetorical rugby scrum there on Capitol Hill. These are, on some level, performative, also theatrical events. That said, there is something here that has cut through and has really landed with the American people on both sides of the aisle. Give me your take on all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you have someone like Pam Bondi, who I think she reminds me of like a woman who just got kicked out of the bar and isn't allowed to come back in, and just really needed to have been cut off like an hour earlier. And now she's
You don't mean the legal bar, you mean the drinky bar.
Yeah,
right,
the one she sounds like she cares about more. But I mean, it does remind me of just like general defense mechanisms, and one of them is called projection. And this whole, actually you're being theatrical while you're raising your voice is such a tell. So hopefully people, I think, begin to understand that, like, yeah, they've been doing this forever. They love the dog and pony show, but the fact that they're actually having pushback right now, I think, is freaking them out a little bit.
Yeah. Now to Raskin, who is just so level-headed oftentimes as he brings a kind of coherence to everything. Here is Raskin, and again, this is at today's hearings with Pam Bondi.
There's Jess Michaels, Laura Bloom McGee, Danny Bensky, Liz Stein, Marina Lacerda, Sky and Amanda Roberts, who are the family of the late Virginia Giuffre, Charlene Richard, and Lisa Phillips. Now, you're not showing a lot of interest in the victims, Madam Attorney General, whether it's Epstein's human trafficking ring or the homicidal governmental violence against citizens in Minneapolis. As Attorney General, you're siding with the perpetrators and you're ignoring the victims. That will be your legacy unless you act quickly to change course. You're running a massive Epstein cover-up right out of the Department of Justice. You've been ordered by subpoena and by Congress to turn over 6 million documents, photographs, and videos in the Epstein files, but you've turned over only 3 million. You say you're not turning over the other 3 million because they're somehow duplicative, but we know that there are actual memos of victim statements in there. And you also took down the Department of Justice's prosecution memo from 2019. So it's clearly not all duplicative, but even if it were, why not release it? Just release all the duplicative stuff. In the half you did produce, you redacted the names of abusers, enablers, accomplices, and co-conspirators, apparently to spare them embarrassment and disgrace, which is the exact opposite of what the law ordered you to do. Even worse, you shockingly failed to redact many of the victims' names, which is what you were ordered to do by Congress. Some of the victims had come forward publicly, but many had not. Many had kept their torment private, even from family and friends, but you published their names, their identities, their images on thousands of pages for the world to see. So you ignored the law, and even with over 100,000 employees at your disposal, you acted with some mixture of staggering incompetence, cold indifference, and jaded cruelty towards more than 1,000 victims raped, abused, and trafficked. This performance screams cover-up. Convicted sex trafficker and groomer Ghislaine Maxwell opened the gates of hell to Virginia Giuffre and hundreds of other victims, as Virginia recorded in her remarkable book, Nobody's Girl. But when Maxwell was subpoenaed to come testify before Congress, you and Todd Blanche quickly moved her from a higher security prison to a minimum security camp in Texas, where she's enjoyed 5-star treatment, including catered meals, private gym time, and access to a therapy puppy. All because Todd Blanche, who's utterly failed to investigate the monstrous crimes of Epstein and Maxwell's co-conspirators, spent 9 hours with Maxwell and satisfied himself that she would have nothing untoward to say about Donald Trump, which is your only real interest in the matter.
So that I think, and it goes on, but I liked it for its summary. I also liked one fact I was unaware of was the therapy puppy. I didn't know that she got a therapy puppy at her new place. But
yeah, I had heard that. I think we need to get a therapy puppy for the therapy puppy at this point. Why not?
So again, it's performative on one level, it's substantive on another level, and then the media will lift certain things. So this is a podcast, so we're able to let it breathe more, and then those certain things may land, may not, in such a way as to change opinion. Is that really the way it goes down?
Yeah, and I mean, I feel like too, it is performative, but when people start getting tired of the same performance over and over again, like maybe switch up your strategy here a little bit. When you have someone describing what's going on with Ghislaine Maxwell, and then you have Pam Bondi looking away and sort of scoffing at it, I don't think that's a good look, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I thought, she turned in this sort of, do you think it's funny, Congressman, or whatever? Once in a while, she'd go for that. Yet she pulled that side-eye laugh a lot more. Before I pivot off of Epstein, I wanted you to see something, and this is just one of our favorite. Now she's I wouldn't call her a podcaster. I guess she's a social media personality. She's the former pardon attorney for the U.S., and she's a friend of the show, Liz Oyer. Here was a post that she had on what's happening with Epstein, and again, as it relates to what's happened with the Justice Department and everything that they have done to handle Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Go ahead, Tony, please.
Everybody, I am still reeling from the news that Ghislaine Maxwell is trying to cut a deal for clemency. She offered to tell the whole truth about Epstein's sex trafficking ring, but only if Donald Trump grants her clemency. This is one of the most sickening shakedowns in history, and I want to make sure you understand exactly what's happening. I'm Liz Oyer, the former pardon attorney for the Department of Justice. In 2022, Maxwell was convicted by a jury and sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse children. She spent the next 3 years in a prison in Florida, and she would have remained there possibly for the rest of her life if not for the fact that Donald Trump returned to office. Trump brought in his personal attorneys, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, to lead the Justice Department. He thought they would make the Epstein files go away. But they couldn't, and in fact, Bondi only made things worse when she falsely promised to release Epstein's client list. So Blanche devised a plan B, which led to a whole series of suspicious events inside the Justice Department. Here's a quick timeline. In July, the prosecutor who put Maxwell in prison, Maureen Comey, was fired from the Justice Department. Why is this important? Well, she was a highly respected senior lawyer who was fired with no explanation. More importantly, no one knows the evidence against Maxwell and Epstein better than she does. She spent years building the case, and Blanche's fingerprints are all over this. There is no way Comey could have been fired without his approval. Then, just a few days later, Maxwell fired her team of lawyers who at that time were appealing her case to the Supreme Court. It is not normal to fire lawyers in the middle of an appeal. And here's something even stranger. Maxwell hired a new lawyer named David Marcus, who just happens to be a personal friend of Todd Blanche. Then, Blanche traveled to Florida and spent 2 days interviewing Maxwell while Marcus sat by her side. It is absolutely unheard of for the Deputy Attorney General to personally conduct an interview like this, ever. I cannot emphasize that enough. Also, Blanche did not ask Maxwell about a single document during this interview, which is malpractice. In any serious interview, the lawyer would put a whole stack of documents in front of the witness to review and discuss. Then, Maxwell was transferred from the Florida prison, which houses sex offenders, to a minimum security prison camp in Texas. Why is that important? Well, under DOJ policies, sex offenders are not allowed in minimum security prisons for the safety of others. The only way this move could have happened is if Blanche ordered it. Fast forward to February 9th. Maxwell was supposed to answer questions from members of Congress about Epstein's crimes, just like she did with Todd Blanche. But she refused. Instead, her lawyer, Blanche's friend David Marcus, offered to cut a deal. He said, Miss Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. That's a quote. And if she talks, she will say that Trump is, quote, innocent of any wrongdoing. Marcus said that Maxwell is the only person who can prove Trump's innocence, and the public deserves to hear from her. I'm sorry, I don't curse a lot, but this is some complete bullshit. This is totally overtly dishonest and corrupt. It makes me sick. I'm sick for the victims who have to live through this nightmare. I'm sick about the depravity and corruption of our justice system. Honestly, every lawyer involved with this disgusting fraud should be disbarred.
So I wanted you to hear that whole thing because there is a lot there. And again, I always say with Trump and this regime, there isn't a lot of sleight of hand. You see a lot quite openly. And what she just went through, we all saw. We all saw the Blanche meeting, the move, all of this stuff. And yet, maybe the last shoe that will drop will be some kind of pardon or clemency that Trump will issue.
Yeah, I mean, the size of the cover up and the brazenness of it, the obviousness of it, it really blows my mind. I think you have to basically have your head in the sand at this point to not believe that this is a cover up. And I also think that sand is otherwise just known as like the right-wing media ecosphere, because these folks who are on that side of the political aisle, I know many of them, they don't know, they don't care, they don't want to hear anything about it. And when you hear it all like laid out like that, at some point it's like, okay, this is so much deeper. It's not just like, oh, there's some things here and there that are a little corrupt. Every time you look at it closer, the corruption just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. I think the whole thing is just totally rotten.
Yeah, Elliott, you know, they see themselves, and I think this is really important, in a kind of, I'll say jihad, but I mean battle for the soul of America. They see the liberal lefties as being ruinous for that soul of America. And so it's the ends justifying the means. They must keep the libs and the left out of government. And however that has to happen, and whatever the libs and the left want must be denied. And I think when you sort of are in service of that general ethic, this is where you end up in what you're talking about, where, just throwing more wood on the fire of right-wing media, et cetera.
Yeah, the whole situation is absolutely disgusting. And at some point, you look at the people who aren't caring about it. And I do think it goes back to what you're saying, which is this kind of like binary thinking where it's, okay, they're bad, so anything they say is bad and anything I say is good. And it's really just like adolescent, like not even adolescent. This is just like pure childlike behavior on their part. And it makes, I think most of America want to kind of rip their hair out a little bit.
So, the ICE raids, I just wanted to ask you about your thoughts on this. They're not popular. I mean, the images that are coming out of Minneapolis and beyond, they are whipping the heads of many Americans around, even those that we've talked about, people who are dug in. I wonder if you can, and yet, even at the same time, I'll just mention this. I mean, they're super funded, as you know. They're just hyper funded. So there's more and more in the way of ICE agents that are going to be coming. I'm talking about thousands, over 10,000 will be added to the rolls of ICE. And I'm just wondering if you can speak to the fact that these things coexist. Sort of again, the disgust that's increasingly reflected in polling from the American people, and yet the supercharging of ICE and this entire immigration policy that, again, is so very unpopular.
Yeah, it kind of reeks of panic, I think, a little bit on their part, and just sort of digging their heels in. I was in Minneapolis 4 days ago. My wife and I were doing a show out there, and we hesitated about whether or not we should do it. People were DMing saying they didn't feel comfortable leaving their homes to go to the show because ICE had been spotted blocks away from the theater. Every storefront is covered in, ICE out. The theater manager just looked exhausted and was like, this has been a very difficult time. The media isn't covering it as much as it was, but it's still going on constantly. And I think, there are folks that are waking up to this. Unfortunately, I don't think it's enough because I think when I was listening to the show earlier, someone, I don't know if it was a clip, but they mentioned 30 to 35% of this country has always been idiots. I think that might be rookie numbers at this point. I think we might be up to 40, 45, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's funny. That's a drop that we play a lot, and that's from a former White House correspondent at ABC, Jim Avila, and he even noted that when he said that, it might have been true, but it's really no longer true. The number is higher, and so I mean, very very much to your point. And so I get to detention centers, which are the other part of this game. They are profit centers in addition to being detention centers. They are wildly incentivized to keep people in these various places. And now, they're buying up these warehouse spaces. I talked about this on the show yesterday. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars are being spent to buy up these huge warehouse spaces in states across the country where these detainees will be housed. And they'll be housed on in numbers that exceed even the biggest prisons in the U.S. So you'll have 10 and 12,000 people in these various places. And again, these places are privately run, and they're government contractors, right? Privately run and economically incentivized to keep people there because they're paid for every head that's in detention. Speak to this, because I think this is the next wave that's coming.
I didn't know it was up to 10 to 12,000 people that they were going to put in detention centers. That alone is insane. I don't know what the number is exactly when it comes to like Alligator, Alcatraz. I think last I heard it was 1,200 people that have just gone missing. But yeah, when you have these for-profit prison systems and your profit comes from the amount of people you have in that space, then it's not economical to actually take care of them. I heard a report about children in these detention centers being served food with worms in it because they're going to waste money like feeding food that doesn't have worms in it to these kids. That's not where the money comes from. The money comes from getting more kids in there and more worms in the food. So yeah, I mean, the whole situation is absolutely disgusting. I don't know how people aren't just on the streets 24/7 right now.
Yeah, it's and it's interesting with those things that cut through. I think the kids and the images of kids involved in this, they really do cut through. And I'm grateful that we get those images. And I want to double back and say one thing. I'm talking about warehouse space that could house 10 to 12,000 people. So they don't have them yet in detention at those numbers, but that's what they're doing first. They're acquiring the warehouse space, and you're acquiring it at a certain level because you clearly tend to populate that. So that's what's happening. But again, the policies seem to be unwavering. And those that were questioned about the policy yesterday on Capitol Hill seem to, claim it proudly.
Yeah, they've made up in their minds that this is what Americans want. And I think that when they look at polling numbers and they get a little scared and they go, oh no, are we going to start losing the midterms? Their reflex is to just double down on everything as quickly as possible. And I think when they double down, so too do their diehards. And then that creates a further, deeper dichotomy in our culture that's already politically divided. So we're essentially modeling them and they're modeling us. And it's like this dialectic back and forth. And it's not good for the soul of the nation that they purport to be so concerned about.
I want to hit you with one last piece of video because I think it's revealing, and it's about the SAVE Act and the, having to prove your bona fides as you come into various area polling places, areas where you might vote, having to produce evidence of one sort or another in order of citizenship, because so many illegals, as they're called, or undocumented, are voting in U.S. elections, which is just absurd. I mean, obviously, if you were here illegally, you want nothing to do with any kind of official government thing. Okay.
Thank you.
It's insanity. There's no evidence. Yet this has been a talking point, and apparently a fairly effective one, So play a little bit of the SAVE Act moment, which I think is revealing just in its obviousness.
Can you take out your driver's license? Mr. Scott has his out. If you took yours out, I'm looking at mine. What we're talking about here is, does your driver's license tell us where you were born? It does not. Does it?
No, not in the state of Wisconsin.
Mr. Scott, yours doesn't either. Because what we're talking about is registration. You cannot use this ID to register to vote under your bill. Is that correct, Mr. Stiles?
You could not use your ID. That would be an accurate statement.
Chairman Stiles, do you have a passport?
I personally do have
You
a
do
passport.
have a passport.
I'm part of the roughly 50% of Americans. that
You're
have a
roughly
passport.
50% of Americans have a passport because you travel. About 50% of Americans don't travel internationally. They don't have that money. Is that right? One of the reasons you have to have a certain amount of money to be able to travel internationally to get that passport, to pay for that passport. Is that correct?
There is a charge to
There is
the
a
U.S.
charge.
passport. That's accurate.
21.3 million American citizens of voting age don't have ready access to citizenship documents. This is ready access. We already discussed earlier the fact that this bill, you have changed the enactment date of this bill to go in effect as soon as it is signed into law. And if that happens, then this 21.3 million American citizens who might not be prepared for a future in a few weeks in terms of Texas, who might want to, they're excited about the race, they're excited about the Republicans, senators who are running against each other and battling it out, they're excited about the Democrat primaries, they want to get involved, they want to register to vote. They might be on one of the 21.3 million Americans who don't have ready access to citizenship documents. That's what we are concerned about, is that by rushing this into law, you are going to prevent so many people from being able to register to vote.
Isn't that what the idea is, though?
unacceptable.
I mean, that just speaks to it. I mean,
It's also, I understand why she's saying those things and I agree with them, but I also think it kind of enters into the framework that they've set up, because this isn't really a problem. This is a classic example, I think, of Republicans making up a problem, freaking out about it, and then selling everybody on their solution. And it has been incredibly effective, but I think it's completely phantom-like. There's nothing to it. And it's a great way for them to make sure that they can better control the elections. Who do they not want voting for them? People who do not have a lot of money. It's not that complicated, I think. And that's what this is all about. I don't think it's about rushing the bill. I think on its face, it makes absolutely no sense. But it speaks, I think, to how strong the propaganda has been for the past 15 years with this particular demographic. When you convince people over and over again that this is a serious problem, they're going to believe it.
Yeah, that's interesting. You make such a good point. The tactic is effective on an argument that is completely absurd.
Right.
And so now you've bought into even having the conversation about this, which is a win for that side.
Exactly. It implies that there is a serious problem here. And it's, again, I mean, nothing against Fernandez, but I think like it's, again, an example of the Democrats going like, whoa, 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 just actually slow down a little bit, you know? And I personally, that's not my MO. I don't think that's a great strategy. I think this should be outright rejected.
So tell me about where we can find you and where I can direct people. Again, I'm really trying to exploit you to gain some visibility for this podcast and my offering, but I'm happy to reflect a little bit of my generosity onto you. Go ahead,
Well,
Elliott
thank you
Morgan.
so much. Yes,
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Right now, I mean, I'm just now starting a Substack, which you can find at substack.com/Elliott Morgan, 2 L's, 2 T's. There will be posts on there one day. And I make 2 videos a week over at Rebel HQ, and I co-host the show Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie on most Thursdays. So,
And
but yeah.
we put it in the live chat with it'll be under this video. And you tour with your wife. You mentioned that because in the context of Minnesota. What is that
Yes.
tour? That's a comedy tour?
That is, we are going to be in Portland this weekend and then Seattle. Then we're going to be at Vancouver just for laughs. But yeah, my wife had a breast cancer diagnosis and then made basically, she's better now, but she made a one-woman show out of it. That's very funny. So we
And
go
who
out,
is your wife?
Her name is Grace Helbig. She
Well,
is
you
an
know,
old
but
school YouTuber.
Yes, you can call up Grace if you want, Tony. Tony
Get her on the line.
was noting something. Anyway, she's extremely popular as a. So, who's the bigger name on the bill? Would it be you or your wife, Elliott? It just occurred to me.
Gonna go with my wife, Mark. Not by just, I don't know, orders of magnitude. Just a few orders of magnitude.
It's really, really cool to hang out a little bit, even virtually, with you. And I hope to see way more of you. And I'll definitely check out. You know, I watch you on TYT all the time. Here's Elliott's wife, for those who are just curious. I think Tony's got it, but maybe not. Anyway, come back and visit us again. And mad love to both of you. And as I say, I look forward to the next time. Elliott Morgan. Thanks, my friend. Talk soon. Right on. Right on.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah. What can I say? He's a super smart guy, and I just wanted to introduce you to him. And he'll be back, you know. I want to quickly get to some comments. Because I'm seeing...
And now, your comments.
ICE prisons are illegal, says Ruman Michaels with a $5 super chat. I mean, I'd suggest that they are illegal. I don't understand, particularly when you come to due process, how this is going down. I just don't understand it. And it really speaks to the illegality that underpins this administration on many levels. And when I say it on many levels, I mean it literally. Level by level, issue by issue. There is an utter disregard for those things that are illegal. We'll be very interested to see what happens with the SCOTUS judgment on the tariffs. If it rules, SCOTUS does, against the president's tariffs, which have been imposed impulsively, chaotically, and you can, but most of all, suggest they've been imposed illegally. I mean, I get it, impulsively and chaotically, right, stupidly, right. You can all have those tags attached to the tariffs. But the fundamental thing is that it's illegal for the guy to do it. And Congress just stood aside on it. And by the way, GoFundMe for the therapy pup, says Basic Coding 101.
Big shout out.
Thank you. And by the way, it's more than just a tax on consumers, which it certainly is, but it's created a ripple effect, as you know, from an international diplomatic standpoint. We're in a real tough spot with Canada, with Mexico, with our allies. Again, and it's all on the platform of tariffs. From that platform, you leap to all the other rhetorical smack talking that Trump is doing about Canada, about Mexico. And you see now how the Canadians are fighting back. You know, Trump is threatening to close that bridge that has just been completed, funded by the Canadians. And then the other side of that bridge is that, not the literal other side of the bridge, the side of the bridge that you don't hear about, I think, that much, is that this bridge would be responsible for bringing tens of millions, it might even be on the order of north of $100 million worth of business into America. It's part of the robust trading relationship we have with the Canadians. And yet, why would Trump be all up and bothered by this bridge and actually threaten closure and wanting to close it? Well, there's a billionaire who's a friend of Trump's who has another bridge. Look it up. And it is the right now prevailing way in which there is trucking back and forth with goods that go back and forth between Canada and America. So if there's another bridge that's set up, it takes business away from the bridge that's owned, if you will, by, or he has an interest in this bridge, this billionaire buddy of Trump's. It's always about Trump and what he wants. Trump and enrichment, either literally enrichment that he's involved with or the family's involved with, or that his billionaire buddies are involved with. I mean, the billionaire boys club that is the Trump administration is stupefying. It's unbelievable. And so you have to know that the tentacles of all of that reach to these things that are associated with U.S. policy on trade. And that's a very dangerous thing. So I await, hopefully, that SCOTUS decision so that we can get rid of these tariffs and take away a lever of power from a guy who is clearly an authoritarian.
Guy's name, speaking of the bridge, is Matthew Maroun, who's a billionaire. His family runs this bridge linking Michigan and Canada, and he met with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on Monday, just a few hours before Trump comes out and criticizes this bridge that Canada is funding.
So there you have it. There you have it. He has a meeting, and before you know it, Trump is all over this bridge that before the meeting he had no idea even existed. And now he's against it in a big way. And let me tell you this smack-talking Canada and then taking real moves to tariff various Canadian goods, it has a real effect in this country, not just on consumers, not just on inflation, but you hear they're always talking about the 401ks, the 401ks. Look at the stocks associated with Canadian goods coming across the border. Look across the rhetorical BS at what's really happening on the stock market. Look at U.S. Steel. Look at Nucor. Look at these newly volatile stocks, because the thing about investors is they don't wait around to see where all the dust settles. They make moves. They sell stock. They don't want to be caught in the middle. And so if you watch these stocks, the volatility speaks for this administration, which is chaotic in its policy. Just purchased an item from Canadian, says Robert Schwartz. By the time I paid the taxes and shipping and tariff, it cost me almost as much as the item I purchased. Yeah, I mean, exactly. And the same is true of a lot of the stuff with China. I've talked about the Temu thing. We all get that. Is it Temu? I used to, where you order T-shirts and all this other stuff.
No,
all this discount stuff, right? And now it's like, wow, all of a sudden it's way expensive. Well, this administration has claimed to be transparent, says Blue Spark. Got to hand it to them. The corruption is right out there. Yeah, the corruption is both right out there and then not right out there. I mean, it's happening transparently and at the same time not transparently. So don't think this is everything going on. Reading other comments.
And now, your comments.
Mobius says The Guardian, bless them, is keeping track of detainees, the number incarcerated, 70,000, and the number deported. They're doing that every 2 weeks. Lots of good data and charts. Thank you, Mobius. That's The Guardian. Good. And Robert says those protests are just a waste of time. What has changed as a result of the protests? He's saying, like, it doesn't change anything. Trump is still in power. His Heritage Foundation cabinet is still putting forth both their agenda and Project 2025. I can see where you'd be demoralized, but I think your voice, to the extent that you can express it in some sort of reasonable way, is important. I do have kind of, because typically Belinda would be here, and we do It's the Planet Stupid. I do have to report that the plans, you made me think of it when you talk about Project 2025, the Project 2025 plans and strategies are being imposed upon America in many different ways. And the climate battle, which has been waged for decades now, is really starting to be won by those who don't care about the climate. So you end up with what tepid regulations there were protecting water, soil, and air, all being rolled back. And again, the climate legislation that Joe Biden was trying to get through and did get through on some level is getting unwound. The idea that global warming does pose a clear and present danger to the U.S. was something that the Biden administration actually did, and did it against a lot of political headwinds. But the Trump administration has been plotting, I would say, through those who are part of the administration now. So it's not the administration all of a sudden plotting it. That's why I mentioned Project 2025. There are interests and very well-honed ways in which these regulations protecting the environment are now rolled back, and the way that the greenhouse gas movement is beginning to be defeated. So Russell Vought and Jeffrey Clark, high-profile allies of Trump, they have rallied against climate alarmism. Vought is, of course, running OMB, and they are, in a sense, seizing control of climate policy and regulation now. And you see these climate initiatives being rolled back. It takes a long time to bring them in. And again, the overwhelming number of scientists agree that carbon dioxide, methane, other greenhouse gases are dangerously heating the planet, supercharging storms and droughts and heat waves and sea level rises. And again, now you have a conservative movement embodied by this administration largely to roll it all back and revoke a lot of the EPA mandates. Some of that has happened already, and some of it is going to happen in the coming days. So the I wanted to mention it because they have, and they're going to issue a paper on this, essentially not only revoking a lot of these regulations, but explaining that the greenhouse gases that do threaten the public health and welfare are all just part of a political jihad on the part of the left. And so it's a plan that's been in play for a long time, and now it has momentum and appears to be, again, reflecting a lot of conservative values and business values. And I'd suggest that those conservative values and business values could coexist with some degree of environmentalism, but clearly you're not going to get that here. You're going to get that, as I say, the minimal standards surrounding clean air, soil, and water, you're going to get them dismantled. So I bought a $6,000 robot from China, says Weston, Florida, ended up closer to $10,000 after tariff fees and taxes. Well, the first thing I would do is I'd sit that robot down and explain how much you have spent on it.
What?
You know, I mean, let's get a little respect. Yeah. You came in for $6K. I ended up, Daddy had to spend $10K to bring you here. Kilo Karen says, I've been trying to buy the Sweet 106 vegan Snickers, and they finally have it available. There you go. I subscribed, and I used the coupon code. All right.
Hey.
Sweet106bakery.com. Use the coupon code MARKT for 15% off. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you, Tony, for putting that up. Tony's been very good. Hustling videos, hustling stuff. Very impressed by Tony's performance.
Thanks, Tony.
I don't know if it's Employee of the Month, but the month isn't over. But he says no. Okay, well.
Thanks, Tony.
I don't know. You're very impressive, Tony. I also promised yesterday that I would do a law and disorder.
Mm-hmm.
I'm right up against it, but I feel like I promised and I sort of have to pay it off. How do you feel about this, Kim?
I feel like we move forward.
You feel like we should do it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Get it. Let's get it going.
All right. So without any further delay, I am going to pay off the promise issued some time ago, and I'm looking for it now, which is why I'm stalling and speaking in this slow way, because while I speak slowly, I'm able to look to see if I can find it, and I cannot. So where is it, Kim?
Hold on. Just stall for one more second, and I'll make sure you have it ready.
Hang on. I see. I see legal stuff, but where's my law and disorder? Do you have it in there or not?
Oh, the legal stuff is really good.
Yeah, but I'm asking. That's another. Kim likes to deflect that way. Yeah.
Kim, how are you?
Where did you put law and disorder in or not?
Hold on, I'm making sure.
I specifically asked for it. Did you?
Kim, how are you?
Did you do it or no?
I blame you.
Yeah, I'm sure it's my fault somehow. But anyway, the maybe we won't be doing it after all, everybody. This is why you watch the live show. Am I right, people? Yeah. You like to see how the sausage is made.
All right, it's in.
I see. What was it not in before?
No, it was not in.
Was there a...
Would you like to apologize for what you've done?
You want to offer an explanation as to why it wasn't when I specifically
I would
said
like
we
to
wanted?
voluntarily make sure that Tony gets Employee of the Month because I know that I'm out of the running.
You are, yeah. Look, the important thing is that you apologize, but I know that's hard for you. But I nonetheless encourage you to do it.
My bad. I'm sorry.
All right. Anyway, now we have law and disorder ready. Let's pretend this whole ugly thing didn't happen. It won't take long for me to take you through a tour of a couple of bizarre events and other happenings in the world of law and disorder.
In the criminal justice system, the people,
Pimps, addicts, thieves, bums, winos, girls who can't keep an address, and men who don't care.
are represented by two separate yet equally important groups.
A cop, a flatfoot, a bull, a dick, John Law, you're the fuzz, the heat, you're poison, you're trouble, you're bad news.
These are their stories.
I want to start with a heist. This is a heist in Italy. You'll see what they do. They block an armored van that is carrying a bunch of cash. And in blocking the van, they come out of the car that's blocking the van with guns drawn. And then an explosion. No, it's not there now? Oh. Well, apparently you're going to have to take my word for it. You know what? It wasn't as great as I say, to be honest. Apparently we don't have it. So I am okay. I'm having a rough day, man. I don't know what I can do. You know, I can put the stuff in there, man, but I can't.
All right. The Mark Thompson show.
Meanwhile, the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department says that a tattoo on one of their sheriff's ankles was a, shall we say, problem sufficient to keep him from getting a promotion. Now, the Sheriff's Department won't say that, but this Captain Ben Torres of the LA County Sheriff's Department does say that cost me the promotion to commander. I had been in the service for 30 years, no disciplinary history, got the tattoo on my own time, paid for the tattoo with my own money. Nobody sees it on duty. Nobody even sees it off duty. It's ugly and old, Captain Ben Torres said. But I didn't get this promotion. He says his tattoo is similar to unit tattoos worn in the military, including the Marines. He says it's a symbol of service, not gang affiliated. And again, he is suing the LA Sheriff Department. The Sheriff's Department said that law enforcement gang behavior has no place in the LA County Sheriff's Department. It's unacceptable, particularly when it undermines the hard work of the vast majority of our personnel. The department is actively addressing the long-standing issue of law enforcement gangs and is holding personnel accountable for misconduct related to gang-like actions. Again, the sheriff saying, hey, dude, it's not a gang tattoo. Why are you hitting me? Anyway, It's led to this back and forth and this lawsuit. He feels he's being kept out of the promotion game. And finally, take me to the Bikini Cafe. It's quite special. All right.
Do they have Coachella Valley coffee at the coffee bar?
I don't believe so. Not yet.
No.
Yeah, it's the cafe, but I think they're caffeing other stuff. 17 people, including business owners, arrested after the cops said that a coffee shop called the Bikini Cafe, this is in Garden Grove, California, was in violation of city codes. I don't know quite what that means. Apparently, they found employees serving customers while wearing bikinis or in various other states of undress. That is not illegal. But Sergeant Nick Jensen of the Garden Grove cops said that the operation violated municipal codes related to public nudity because apparently alcohol and other things served coinciding with a level of skin that puts the establishment on some shaky ground. The building was also red tagged by city code enforcement officials, requiring the business to shut down until the violations are corrected. Didn't specify what the violations were.
So the sign says cafe, but inside you got a big old strip club.
I think that there are some reveals going on there. Yeah. Bikini cafes, for those who are interested, feature scantily clad staff as part of their marketing. They've appeared in communities across the country and often spark complaints from nearby residents, according to the report. But in this case, apparently, as Kim says, there might have been more going on than just the bikiniing. And that, my friends, is law and disorder. Oh, wait, you've got it. Now Tony's found it. So this is, well, hold on a second. I'd set it up again. I'm going to have to edit the hell out of this now. Oh, my God. In Italy, a major heist. They block the freeway. This is video shot from a car coming the other way on the freeway. They block the freeway and then jump out of the car. They've blocked this van carrying money. You can see the two guys crouched down there. They are armed, and there's about to be an explosion. And this is their heist. They are targeting this armed van, which is carrying cash. There it goes, the blast. And after the blast, the armed men move in, and they make this heist. These are military-grade explosives apparently used, and they made off with millions and millions of dollars in cash. Of course, they weren't dollars, they were euros. But they estimate north of $2 million and maybe more. Pretty crazy. Look at that. You know, when you see somebody dressed in that outfit carrying an AR in this country, they're over the ice.
Yeah.
But here, they're part of a major heist operation. And so there you have it. We'll show it to you one more time. Oh, or not. Here we go. We'll show it without stopping. The guys crouch down. You can see the explosive laid down. They detonate that explosive and cash in the transit van, and they make off with all of that. And that is law and disorder.
Tune in again next time for more Law and Disorder on the Mark Thompson Show.
All right, that's it. Let's roll. Hey, let's be careful out there.
Let's finish up here quickly. We must and we shall.
The Mark Thompson Show.
Luis says for $5 in his super chat.
Big shout out.
We love Tony, but he's a Canadian. But he's Canadian? Shall we start?
No,
Tony's not Canadian.
My mom is.
Oh, really?
Well, not anymore.
I never knew that.
She became a citizen a long time ago.
Yeah, but she's from Canada. We love Tony, but he's Canadian.
So
I'll read this anyway. We love Tony, but he's Canadian. Shall we start the GoFundMe for his anti-deportation defense now, since Donald Trump is likely to mobilize ICE against Canadians next? Well, fortunately or unfortunately, Tony is not Canadian. So
My
you
dad
can
was
keep your
Italian,
GoFundMe
became a
money.
citizen. My mom was a Canadian. And my dad's Italian. And they both
Tony's ready to produce documentation if you need to see it.
Whatever.
CC Ryder with a $15 super chat. Wow.
Big shout out.
Mark, are you subscribed to the Humane Society email alerts? I give to the Humane Society every month. I don't know if I'm subscribed to their alerts or not. In 2026, the Trump administration has blocked a bill that protects Tennessee walking horses from torture tactics, and the DOJ is suing Michigan over cage-free eggs. I didn't know that, and this gets into probably some details that people don't want to hear, so I will spare you, but those
big shout out
Tennessee walkers that they walk with, I don't know if you guys know, they walk like that with their, and it's a really beautiful thing, but it's not natural. You can read about how they make them do that, and it is torture. I didn't know about them suing Michigan on the cage-free thing. It's just remarkable to me that we can't have decency any longer, and a sense of decency about the planet, a decency about other living creatures, and that can coexist with whatever conservative agenda you may have. I don't get it. Again, a conservative economic agenda can coexist with some of these other things, some of these other values that do reflect America. But sadly, I just don't feel as though this country is in a place right now where those things are coexisting. You need to disregard those whose civil rights have been infringed upon. Historically, I'm talking about the LGBTQ plus community, the Black community, minority community, Latino community. These are all minority communities that are reflected in immigration. These are minority communities as well. I don't mean ethnically. I mean, they don't make up the majority of people. And yet to see them treated in this incredibly harsh way, this brutal way, to call it harsh is to understate it. It's just loathsome. And then you look at what's being inflicted upon the environment, and as was noted by that comment, on other living creatures, sentient feeling creatures, it's hard. It's really hard. But that's where we are now. So I do think talking about it does help. There can be people to say, hey, what can we do? Just talking about it, does that make a difference? It actually does. I think pictures of what's happening, I think stories of what's happening, I think they all make a difference. They help to build a critical mass. I get that it's an uphill climb, but I also think it is a climb that we're gaining ground on. And so when you see these polls come out and they show the unpopularity of, for example, ICE policy, the detention policy, economic policy, tariff policy, it all matters. And so you have to talk about these things, I think, to get to these places. Tomorrow, what's on the show, Kim? Can you tell me?
John Avarosis, David Katz.
Yeah. John Aravosis is amazing. He's a friend of the show. You'll love him if you don't know who he is, and Katz is the best. We will look forward to seeing you tomorrow. We leave you with the great Shadow.
I'm Shadow Stevens for the Mark Thompson Show. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for supporting us and our efforts.
Out of time. Bye-bye.
Out of time. Bye-bye.